What's up, guys? Army-Firedawg back for the second time in a day. But today I actually have another review for you, and this time it is for the Vibro Labs, the Arias, or Arias, I'm not sure how you pronounce the name. But these are their currently only offering, and is their 4 balanced armature driver model. Now this can be offered in 2 formats. You can get Universal, which is what's on the tour, and then you can also get Custom. Universal goes for $600 and the Custom goes for $700 respectively. With that, you have a couple different faceplates you can choose from, but you can check that out more yourself, and I'll of course leave a link to their website in the description box down below. Please check them out. They're quite awesome, and Luke's an awesome dude you should talk to. But back to the review, and as always, I like to start with the construction. So the construction of these is honestly about typical of pretty much every IM on the market regardless of price. It's made of pretty much all plastic. Maybe there's a silicone mix in here in the compound, but it's mainly just plastic. The cable, at least, is removable, which is a huge aspect. I'm a diehard believer, if I have an IM, or actually a headphone in general, and if it does not have a removable cable, it's got to be a heck of a headphone for me to purchase it. That's an automatic huge negative in my books and my ratings if it does not have a removable cable. Because all too often personally seen and heard of people who have bought even $1,000+ headphones only for them to be completely useless or ruined because the cable gets shorted out or even tears. So that's a good aspect. The downside I have is actually with the construction is these are rather large. The horn I think is unnecessarily large. Yes, it has 2 bores. I highly doubt this camera will show that. No, of course it won't. But there's 2 bores in there. So there is going to be extra space for that. When a similar 4-driver IM, such as the Shure SC846, has 4 drivers, and it's a super small hole, it's like a tiniest port. That, in all honesty, on a biased opinion, is my personal, that's what an IM horn should be. That's a perfect IM size if it's any ears. But I understand the reason for this not. But with these, and I'll use my fiancée Christina for example, she has really small ears. She was not even able to listen to these. She could not experience the Vibro Labs Aria because of the horn size. In addition to that, the framework itself, in a clear, you can kind of see the drivers. There is a lot of unnecessary space in there. So I think they could have done a much better job with making them smaller and more compact. And actually, I'll even show you what they look like in my ears. They do jet out quite a bit. So as you can see, that's in. Get my focus on it, and there you go. It's not flush, as in here's the tragus. And it's shooting out past that. So that's about it for the construction. It's very straightforward. There's a couple downfalls to it. But actually I will say on the comfort, or excuse me, the construction is the isolation factor is awesome. And also, not only the isolation, though these are built rather large. Now granted, I do have a little bit above average ear size, even my ear canal. And then when I had these in, I had no discomfort whatsoever at all. I wore these many times for 4+ hours on end. I've probably put, in the week I had these, I probably put about 26 hours in them, roughly, in the week I've had them. I mean, they have not left my ear. I listened to them on my way to work, at work, coming home from work, and then when I got here listening to music. These didn't leave my ears, which is pretty much all the auto products I get that are sent to me is I utilize them, I learn them, I learn what they're about. But moving on down to the comfort, which as I just described, wonderful. Despite them being larger than what I honestly believe they could be or should be, I have no issues with the comfort. I wore them for hours on end, no issues. The supplied comply memory foam tips, and I believe from the website, these are the T500 size. Wonderful. Like I said, y'all know me, I swear by comply anyway. I use them on every single universal IM I have. They're wonderful. The isolation's great. They mold to your ears. They really are, in terms of external tips, they are a bit expensive, but I absolutely swear by them. I'm so spoiled on comply. But that ran aside. No issues with comfort, top notch, no complaints. Very well done on the comfort factor. But now let's move on to the sound. And this is where they've been getting pretty both side results. Because in all honesty, the sound's not for everybody. And even myself, when I first listened to them, I was like, ooh, that's definitely a unique sound signature. And the way Luke describes it, and actually let me read it so I will quote verbatim what he said. And this is again quote from Luke Pighetti. If I'm saying it correctly or incorrectly, I apologize. But when asked by fellow Headfire and reviewer Eagle Wings what he would consider this sound, he said, "If I were going to pigeonhole it, I would say somewhere between balanced and U-shaped. To delve in deeper, the goal of the Aria is to present top extension with controlled and smooth sub-bass, preserving micro details and allowing articulate sub-bass landscape to form. This type of tune is certainly versatile, but I think it does best with electronic music." I will get back to that later in the review. "Which has a very complex bass line that is usually lost in the fray of inarticulate low end that you see in a lot of hybrids and Knowles CI-based earphones. I find that Aria comes up a whole new world of appreciation for complex sub-bass while still retaining complex micro details. And I know that makes it sound like some crazy V-shaped sound signature, but the really crazy thing about the Aria is that it is relaxing, non-fatiguing, and is still very versatile. Hard to explain really. I think you'll enjoy. It's a unique signature." I can agree with 99% of what he said on that. Everything except for the sub-bass. Well, about 99%. The only issue is everything about it is super smooth, wonderfully controlled. Dear goodness gracious, is this one of the most controlled and accurate and tight punching IMs I've ever heard. I think it's even tighter in just terms of control than maybe even my Hermes. But I go to an AB here later. The bass, however, is just not heavy like you would expect to be in EDM or electronic music. It hits really hard and it stops instantly. There's no decay, or very little, if any. But it's just not heavy. But what he quoted, or what he was going for, is spot on. Like, everything I heard when I listened to it, when I first heard it before I found this quote, I was listening, I was like, wow, it's just like if someone took a big ice cream scoop and just went bloop, and then took out the mids. It's still there, but it's just bloop, it's just gone. It still remains, it's honestly, and I'll get more into this here in a minute as well, a balanced sound. But before I do that, the soundstage and imaging as well, before I delve into individual treble, bass, and mids, is awesome. Oh my gosh, the soundstage, it is much vaster or much wider than what most IMs I've tried, let alone at this price point, at any price point I've tried is. It has great layering. The separation is very, very respectable. I love listening to classical music on these. Pentatonics, I know they're not instrumental, but all their music, you can tell each individual voice apart from each other. And they're also one of my favorite bands. I listen to them a lot, and they've become a tester for me to see if I can still hear each individual person versus them all meshing together, which is very difficult to do, and the Arias did wonderfully well. Imaging, also top notch with them. You can close your eyes and you're just about at the performance. I think it could be done a little bit better, but I believe its only loss of the imaging factor is because the mids are scooped out as much as they are. But you do hear such fine detail in them that you can visualize what you're listening to very, very well, even in this same price point. But moving on to the individual aspects, the treble, which I see as the eyes of the music, it's one of the first things you notice, and pierces into you, like you need to be taken away by someone's eyes because it says a lot about them. Well, Aria claims to be very micro detailed because you can, back to the eyes, you can tell a lot about a person by their eyes. Are they dead inside? Do they have a fierce personality? Are they kind of dull, or do they just have a softness to them? Well, the Arias, wonderfully smooth. I will say, I don't forget how many times I've said smooth during this review, but there's nothing sharp about this headphone whatsoever. From the treble range, it just softly goes down. Even in the scoop, like, it doesn't V-shape. I hate V-shaped sound curves because they are quite fatiguing, because that constant bloop and back up, bloop and back up, it wears my ears out. These, it just softly goes down, goes to the mids, and then softly comes right back up into the bass line. And it's just a very enjoyable experience, and it's just something I just like to relax to. And that's what these are perfect for those of you who just want a headphone that like detail. You just want a more or less balanced signature, but you just want to be a relaxing sound. You don't want nothing to be really focused. You just want to just relaxing, just in listen to the music. You will find great solace in the Arias. You will find wonderful solace in them. But going back into it, the treble had wonderful extension. It extended really, really high, and I don't know how Vibro Labs tuned it, but right before it starts to get to the piercing level, it sloops right off. It just right, like a good song. If you get the chance to listen to this, there's two. There's a Lindsey Sterling, Beyond the Veil, and even more so probably, or I got three for you. Beyond the Veil by Lindsey Sterling, Where's My Mind by Max Sense Siren, and then Diva Dance from the movie The Fifth Element. All three of those get pretty good up there in terms of the potential pierceness in some IMs, or any headphones for that matter. These get up to that, so you get that energy, you just get that yes, and then it just, before it gets painful, it slopes right off, but doesn't drop, it just nicely slopes. So in terms of treble, wonderful. These are really well done at the treble range, super smooth to listen to. And the detail, or going on the drums, I'll use cymbals for a second. In detail retrieval, on the softness side of it, I've gone at the top of the peak of the treble, but in the bottom of the treble, if you have a piece, I can't think of an example I wish I did, but I would just listen to a random mix. The artist had a drumstick was just brushing a cymbal. You know, it has that gritty, you can hear the groove sound when it hits. You can make that out wonderfully on here. It doesn't mesh together. You can hear that wood on cymbal. It's a really good, now it does also take a good DAC to hear this. I've got my 4490, and I was using it with my Lear 2, so that might have accentuated it a little bit. But these represented or reproduced that very, very well. Now moving down to the mids, and this is where they lost me personally, to a degree. The mids, as I said earlier, take a nice big scoop right out of it, and it's thrown away. So they're not forward. I don't get the emotion from the artist I listen to, because that's why I like the mids. That's where you get the artist's emotion. That's where their vocals are. That's where they're pleading for you to get the feelings of their music they're trying to portray to you. And the Vibro Labs Aria, it's a very smooth presentation. It is balanced. Like going back earlier, I've never understood how something with such a large dip can still have a balanced sound. But once you are in the valley of the bottom of the midsection, everything sounds still smooth. It sounds accurate, and it sounds even while you're down there. Yes, it's recessed and way down here, but it still sounds balanced and even. So I was quite impressed, not put. But I just never got that emotional or that sensual aspect from whoever I'm listening to. I couldn't get that connection, and that's what I look for. So that's why I personally kind of got a little bit off put by the Arias. Now going to the bass, and this is like the heartbeat of the music. This is what keeps the music in pace and in rhythm. The bass on the Vibros so controlled. Like they just have, I thought I was listening to a planar magnetic. Yeah, BA drivers are a lot more accurate generally than dynamic, sure, but the control on these things is so darn tight. Like a bass hits and then gone, nothing. There's no, like I said earlier, there's no or minimal decay whatsoever. It's just hit, gone, done. On to the next note. No bleed over into it. And in doing so, they mentioned electronic music earlier, and that's what it really excels at, and it does. It plays wonderfully with electronic music. A good example of that, one of my favorites, is Sandstorm by Darude. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's a constant heavy bass mix, and it varies in frequency and in amplitude, and a lot of headphones control quite well, but even by their own design, they do bleed into the next note somewhat, which makes it more of a thump, more of an enjoyable sound, but not accurate. The Arias are very accurate. If you want clean and tight bass, and you don't care too much for thump, because they don't have that much. They do not hit hard, hardly at all. They really do not. Not in terms of being bright, but they can be considered bass light. You will probably like the Solus a lot. My friends, that's it. This has been a really quick and fast-paced week. With these, I have another product I got for you coming in tomorrow. I think you'll like quite well. It was actually personally requested by one of you guys, the subscribers, and I was finally able to get a hold of one for you. I might have a couple more coming, but I'm just satisfied with what I get. But if you have any questions about the Arias that I may have missed, or if you think there's something I should have covered or I overlooked, please hit me up in the comments. I will happily and very quickly reply to you as soon as I'm able to, as best as I'm able to. If this video helped you at all, please hit that like button. It does greatly help me out a lot, and it helps this channel grow some. But that's all for the video of the Vibro Labs Aria. And of course, my name is Army-Firedawg. It's been a pleasure. But most importantly, my friends, and please I ask, with this storm coming, stay safe.